Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
I said earlier, and I'll say it again, there's nothing that brings me more joy into my heart than to see young people coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think this is amazing. We have a brother and sister team, and wow, it's a family disease, ain't it? And I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to bring Miss Jessica up here first.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm an alcoholic. I have been gratefully sober since March 17th of 2005. I'm really nervous. Sorry. So I guess I grew up in College Station, Texas, and had a pretty normal childhood. My parents got divorced when I was about 4. And I think while I had 2 great parents that were always there for me, they just weren't living in the same house. I ended up with 4 parents. And they're all awesome, and I've had all 4 of them for about 20 years now. And I think that the only thing that divorce did was it just kind of fueled my manipulation and my ability to act out and do anything crazy that I could, just so I could blame it on the fact that my parents weren't married anymore, because really it wasn't their fault. Everything I got myself into was all because of choices that I made. I don't have any significant first memory of my first drink. I can tell you the first time that I noticed that somebody thought I was a lot nicer when I'd had a couple of drinks. And I was like, oh, hey, they don't think I'm rude and mean, so maybe I should roll with this. I kind of was, an act-out teenager. I did everything I could to irritate my parents and get under their skin. Anything a girl shouldn't be doing, I probably was doing. And I was very vocal about it I wanted to get back at them. I wanted to punish them for not being married anymore. I did not lead a good example for my younger brother at all. Somewhere along the lines, I guess, I started to realize that he had a problem that had gotten pretty bad, and at that point I kind of backed off from my partying and kind of became the super crazy Al-Anon sister, which qualifies me for both programs. But I dropped all my friends, started hanging out with my brother, went around cleaning up after him, making sure that he didn't get himself into trouble. And so when he got sober, when I was about 21 years old, I had just moved out of the house. And I was like, it's party time. I don't have anything to do. And I was living in a college town, and I got introduced to 50 Cent Long Neck Night, and it was off to the races. And, I can tell you any number of stories to kind of qualify myself. It just all boils down to the fact that, there just wasn't enough. There was never enough alcohol. And I knew all the bartenders, and when I would try all kinds of controlling things with, I would only take $20, and then I would be drunk begging them to give me free alcohol, and they would. And, I was that crazy. Towards the end, the girl that was going around, I would drink beers that didn't belong to me off tables just to get more alcohol. I blacked out a lot. I picked fights with large men that I didn't know. I have no idea why. I went from a crying drunk to a really angry drunk. And you never really knew what you were going to get with me. I was either going to be in a ball crying, calling my brother, who was sober, or I was going to be raging at you and throwing things, and I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to any of it. I went through trying to have other people try to control my drinking. It just never worked, Like, I didn't get wasted every time that I drank, and I didn't get in trouble every time that I drank, but every time, wait, I'm saying that backwards. Yeah, every time that I did get into trouble, I had been drinking. I'm sorry. I'm nervous. I learned in my drinking that having a father as a judge does not get you out of things. Telling a police officer that he cannot give you a ticket or arrest you because your father is a judge does not work. Fortunately, after I started crying substantially, he did let someone else drive me home that night, but I could have absolutely gone to jail. There were a lot of times where I could have gone to jail. I passed out in my car in front of my apartment, slept out there. I did not live in a great neighborhood. I started mixing in other party supplies, and I only talk about that for the fact that the way that I drank in the beginning, in the first couple of years, even though it really wasn't working, I probably could have sustained that for a really long time and probably wouldn't have gotten sober at the point that I did had I not started using other party supplies. And, I eventually went back to just solid drinking after a while because at some point my brother became a drug counselor, and for some reason I just started to really feel like I didn't need to get arrested and embarrass my drug court judge father or my brother who was the drug counselor, because I was terrified I was going to be on like the 6 o'clock news and embarrass my entire family. Unfortunately, that was about 9 months before I got sober when I had that realization, so I kept drinking. And to give you an idea of just how bad it got, one of the last times that I really blacked out, I came home and decided it would be a great idea to take a bath after I'd been out partying all night long, and I passed out having stopped up the tub, and I woke up underneath about 6 inches of water, and it had overflowed all into the bathroom, out into the hallway of my apartment, and the cat was on the counter and screaming at me, and it was just the mess that created. I didn't clean up for 4 days. I walked around like that because that's just how unmanageable my life was. It didn't occur to me that, that wasn't normal, that it wasn't okay. And I don't know, it's just, I'm glad I'm sober today. Joel was dating another girl that was in the program at the time who was a counselor, and I was having conversations with her, and I started having conversations with my brother about my drinking problems and all the stuff that was happening. I couldn't figure out why I hated myself and I wanted to die, and I was too scared to kill myself and all this stuff. And I just needed something. I needed somebody to tell me which direction, to just put me in a direction. And I got fired from my job for a bad attitude, big surprise. Shocker. And, I had the guy, my friend who lived next door, he'd had a DWI and he didn't like to drive, so he would pay for the alcohol as long as I was willing to be the one that was willing to risk the DWI all the time. He was like my only friend. I think my last birthday before I got sober was me, my sober brother, his sober roommate, and his sober girlfriend at a bar. That was it. Just me. So those good times. And my dad showed up on my doorstep after I got fired and basically said, if you want me to pay your rent until you find a job, you're going to AA. And I was like, okay. And I just went. I don't have any explanation for you as to why. I just at that point would have stood on my head and smoked cigarettes and drank Diet Coke if I thought that was going to make it better and make it stop hurting. And so I went. And it took me 2 or 3 days to go to my first meeting out of just complete terror and fear. And I went to a really, really tiny meeting up at Intercare North that I don't even know if it's still there or not, but there was about 6 people in there. And of course, they did it, what I now know to be a newcomers meeting, and they all kind of talked about why they were in AA and shared their experience with me, and then they forced me to talk. And I opened my mouth, and all of a sudden, all this stuff starts pouring out, and I start telling these people my personal secrets and all these reasons why I'm here and all these feelings I'm having, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? Stop doing that. And I couldn't, and I look around, and people are nodding their heads because they got it. They understood. For the first time, I was able to really be honest with people and have them get it, and it was absolutely the experience that probably kept me coming back. If I hadn't had that, I don't know if I would have stayed sober. Because I needed to know that there were other people that understood me and that got what I was feeling. I guess I've been very involved in young people's the entire time that I've been sober. I got that passed down from my brother, who was very ingrained in it whenever I got sober. I went to my first young people's conference when I had like 21 days sober, I think, and I was completely insane, like just wanting to rip my skin off, raging, angry. Everybody was like, she's nuts, but we're going to talk to her because she's Joel's sister. So, and that's been my experience the entire, I after becoming a drug counselor later, like I would, I do counseling now with kids and adults, but sitting and talking to my clients and telling them, like, you got to go to meetings, you got to stick your hand out, and you got to go find friends and get in the fellowship. And they're like, it's really hard. And it dawned on me one day, I was like, I'm spoiled. I'm really spoiled that I have this family legacy that kind of was laid out for me, because I had people that were willing to take me under their wing and that were willing to do stuff with me just because of who I was related to, because they loved him and respected him. And, I've gone on to build my own life and my own support group in AA, but, there's still some of those significant people that were there for me that are, there are a few of them still around in my life today. I think I went to my first Hickey Paw that year. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore, but I went to my first Icky Paw, and it was August of 2006. I don't know, somewhere in 2006. Absolutely changed my sobriety. Like, I didn't have any idea that many people who were, could be in the same room and just be excited about the fact that they were sober. I mean, it just blew my mind. I don't know how many people were in New Orleans with us. It may have been 3,000 or 4,000, but it was just an unbelievable experience, just empowering. And we came home from that, and we decided that we wanted to host that conference. And, we spent 8 years working on trying to bring that conference back to Texas, and we won this year, and it's been a really amazing experience. Conference work, for any of you who are in here who have done this, I'm sure can relate to this, will absolutely bring out every single character defect that you have. You will fight with people that you love, and hopefully still be friends with them when you walk out the door. It's been a really, really challenging thing over the years, but I think, it's been interesting for me to watch all of that stuff work, because I see those same things play out at work. I see those same things play out in my relationships with other people, and it's been a challenge to try to, always remember we're all on the same team. We're working towards the same goal, even though we all have different ideas, because there's a lot of chiefs and not a whole lot of Indians in the program. This is my personal experience, and I am a chief, sorry. I've been through a lot of really amazing stuff in my sobriety. I have an awesome family, I don't have, on one side there's 9 grandkids, and probably 6 of us have drinking problems, and only 2 of us are sober. One unfortunately, on the other side there's 4 of us, and 3 of us have suffered from this, and all 3 of us on that side don't drink, and I'm really grateful for that. My parents don't drink that much. I just don't have that kind of experience with it, and I feel really blessed for that, because doing counseling, I work with so many kids that are struggling with families that either don't care or they've got their own addiction problems, and it's really eye-opening. I went to work at an alternative school, I guess about 3 years ago, and working with CPS kids and working with kids in foster care will absolutely take away any concern that you've ever had for any sort of torment you had in your own childhood, because it did for me. You know, I think that was, God put me there so that I could learn that what I had was pretty awesome. You know, I made it bad. I made it bad in my head by making everything their fault and trying to destroy my family, basically. I mean, I was not a nice person. I was mean to my little brother. I treated him like garbage. I treated my mom like garbage. I mean, you know, one of the things that, that really feels good for me today is when I see people that knew me from my childhood and see me today, they're like, you have changed so much. Like, that's how I see that I'm actually doing better, because I am fully aware of what kind of insanity I came from. You know, I look back and I was exhibiting alcoholic traits from the moment I was born. There's this old family video that my brother and my father just absolutely love, where we're out at the ranch and I'm carrying the dog and my dad's telling me to put the dog down, and I don't know how long this goes on, but their favorite thing to do is to count how many times he tells me to put the dog down, and I just keep walking. I'm not listening. I'm not having anything to do with it. I'm not putting the dog down. It's not happening. And I want to tell you it's probably like 30 plus times that he tells me. More? Okay, maybe more. Whatever. It's funny now, but it's just, that to me is just, like, it's just textbook, you know? Like, I was going to be gluttonous, and I was going to be strong-willed, and I was going to be hard-headed, and I was going to do everything I wanted to do, and there was nobody that was going to get in my way. And, you know, I immediately got a sponsor when I got into the program. I totally didn't talk about that. How am I doing? I got my first sponsor, kind of a temporary thing. She was awesome, but we really kind of just hung out and went to meetings together. I ended up eventually getting another sponsor because I needed somebody that was more available. And, you know, I didn't have any idea who she was. I went up to one of my friends that was at a meeting, and I said, I need a sponsor. And she said, well, how about that lady? And just pointed at her. And so I went over and introduced myself, and she was like, do you have any God issues? And I was like, no. She was like, okay, call me tomorrow. And he handed me her phone number and walked off. And I was like, okay, see you later. She's still my sponsor. She's awesome. She couldn't be here today. She's sick, unfortunately. But going through the steps with her and, like, really learning about myself over the years has been, you know, my saving grace, as well as, you know, the conference work that I've done and the relationships that I've built with my support group. You know, the first time I did the third step, I had to get down on my knees at Starbucks in front of God and everybody on 1960 with cars, you know, going by at 40 miles an hour and pray. And it was absolutely the most terrifying thing I've ever done. And I didn't want to do it, but I knew I needed to, and so I went through with it, and it was one of the most freeing experiences I've had through the steps. My first fourth step was probably like 21 pages long, front and back, handwritten. I went to town, buddy. I was like, yes, I get to make all these lists of people I can't stand. Went all the way back to like middle school, the people who stole my clothes out of my gym locker. I mean, it was ridiculous. You know, but it was proof to me, like, my insanity, because I had held on to stuff that, I mean, some of the people I knew I hated, and I couldn't even remember why I didn't like them. I just had hated them so long, I just kept going with it. You know, and that's not healthy, obviously. You know, so I was able to let go of a lot of that stuff and to realize just how insane my behavior was and to start to see some of those patterns. I think the second time around, with my fourth step was when I had listed off all these people that I didn't like because they were controlling, and my sponsor's like, can you connect the dots there? And I was like, what? And, you know, and thus went into like 6 and 7 and they're going through the rest of the steps on trying to figure out like all of my manipulative behaviors that I was still exhibiting because I'm still an alcoholic even though I'm, you know, in recovery. And one of my other big things that came out in the last couple of years is my ability to put unrealistic expectations on everybody in my life. I expect complete perfection from myself, and and I expect it from everybody else around me too. And obviously, we're all human. Nobody's going to be able to meet up to that standard. I can't even meet up to the standards I put on myself. I am my own worst enemy, and I will tear myself down faster than anything. If I don't do the things that I'm supposed to do to stay on track, that's what I revert back to, is attacking myself. Because I believe that my brain wants to kill me, and that's just how it works in my head. One of the first things that I got from working the steps and reading through the book was like realizing that my obsession of continuing to obsess, I would walk away from conversations with people, and then for hours after that, I would just replay everything in my head, obsessing about what I should have said, what I could have said, what would have been better. And I didn't get it at the time. I didn't know my entire life that was just kind of part of this deal, that I was just of an obsessive mind, because I thought I was totally insane, and I never told a soul that I did that. A lot of that has subsided for me. I don't have that obsessive insanity now, and when that stuff does come back, I talk to my sponsor about it, or I go to a meeting, or I do the things that I'm supposed to do in order to stay on track. I'm not perfect at working my program by any stretch of the imagination, and there are struggles that I've been through in recovery. If anybody wants to test the solidness of their foundation in recovery, get into a relationship while you're sober. That has been my experience. It almost took me to my knees, and I by no means have taken all of the advice or suggestions that have been given to me, and I like to call it the June bug syndrome, where sometimes I just need to keep slamming my face into the wall until I pass out, unfortunately. But, if truth be told, I know what I need to do to stop all that. I need to change something, right? And if I have a fear of changing things in my life, then everything's going to stay exactly the same, and I'm going to keep exhibiting all of the same processes and traits. I don't know. I'm really excited to be up here. I'm grateful that they asked us to speak. I can't convey to you enough how grateful and how much of a benefit I see that I get to share this with my baby brother. And, the program has given me the ability to not only be a better person, I get to be a better sister, and I don't have to try to be his mom anymore, because I was trying to do that for a lot of years, and it's still there. And it is a horrible struggle a lot of times to back off and not do that anymore. And it's just because of my recovery that I've been able to move past a lot of that stuff and to just be a sister, just be his friend. I don't have to tell him what to do, because he's got his own set of people to help him with all that stuff, But that's been my thing of like, if I can focus on you and what's going on with you and help you, then I don't have to deal with me, right? So being a counselor, it's a really hard struggle for me to stay balanced. But I just do the best that I can, and I try to set a good example for for the kids that I work with. I work with teens now, 13 to 17, who are in an outpatient APG group. I work for Lifeway, and it is not an easy job. It is definitely changed my life, and I have made some really good friends, I guess. I have a lot of people that I've gained through doing that job, and I've learned a lot about myself, and I get to watch kids way younger than me that I wish I would have had the experience that they of getting sober in my teens, because I didn't. I got sober at 27, and I'm grateful for that. I'm going to give this and I'm going to wrap it up, but I'm grateful for getting sober at 27, because I feel like that was right at that perfect time for me, where I had about 6 years of legal drinking where I could go and I tore it up, and I don't have any questions about whether I'm an alcoholic. If I leave this program and I take a drink again, it will absolutely be because I have made a choice not to be sober anymore. It will not be because I've convinced myself I'm not an alcoholic anymore. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Just kidding. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Joel. And my sister is a bad influence. So, you guys know that now, so that's cool. So I'm supposed to share my experience, strength, and hope about, you know, what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. And so she kind of touched on a little bit of that. Grew up in a small college town, pretty normal parents, pretty normal childhood. No like super traumatic stuff happened to me. I just, you know, I waited as long as I could, and then when the opportunity to have a drink came along, I took it, and that was at 12 years old. So there's a couple of things about me that are important as far as my story goes, and that is that my first memories that I have of anything at all are of like self-consciousness and fear, and that pretty much influenced all of my decision-making up until I started drinking, and then throughout my drinking, and then even when I stopped drinking and in early sobriety, still make some decisions based out of fear and self-consciousness, because I got sober when I was 19, and I started drinking when I was 12. I got sober at 19, and what happened in that time frame is that I missed like all the lessons you're supposed to learn about like being a normal human being. Just missed all that. So I kind of had to grow up in public, so to speak, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. And so, you know, 6 years old, you're afraid that no one's going to like you, and you don't want to raise your hand because you might have the wrong answer, or you know, you don't want to stick your hand out to people and ask them if they'll be your friend, because they might say no. And they never did, but that didn't make the fear go away. So kind of my, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about drinking, except to kind of like qualify myself for why I believe I'm an alcoholic and that alcoholism will kill me if I drink again. So my first drink basically characterizes my entire drinking career in the way that I thought. A buddy of mine and I went to his mom's house, and she had an unopened 12-pack of beer in the refrigerator, and we figured if we only took half, just open it up and only take half, she won't notice. If we don't take the whole thing, nobody's going to figure it out. Does not take a rocket scientist to realize that when 6 beers out of a 12-pack are gone, somebody drank some. So it took about 3 hours before we got caught on that, and I got grounded for 10 or 15 minutes. And see, at that time, my mom, you know, single mom, working a lot, doing the best she can. There's not a whole lot of accountability, which worked out pretty good for me. So between that and my sister doing her rebellious thing at the beginning before she started having to take care of me because I was blowing it so bad, I kind of like flew under the radar. So never really got caught doing anything bad. Just, you know, kind of a normal kid, drinking, 12 years old. It's normal, right? So the thing about that is that I learned that if I get in trouble, and as long as my sister's doing some bad stuff, it won't take that long for my mom to forget about whatever I did. So, like I said, grounding's never lasted more than, I mean, I say 10 or 15 minutes. It was probably an hour or two. You know, she'd say, you're grounded for 2 weeks, and it would be 3 or 4 hours until I went and did what I wanted to do. So that first time that I drank, I had 3 beers. We split them. I had 3 beers. I did not get drunk. I did experience a sensation of warmth and excitement from that I thought that I wanted to continue doing, and so I did at pretty much every opportunity. And when you're 12, the opportunities don't come that much unless you really, really create them. So I'm going to have to apologize, too. I'm like a week and a half into having this cold that everyone's got where you're like coughing all the time, so I'm going to do my best not to have any outbursts while I'm talking. Just trying to hold it down over there while she was talking. So opportunities arose because she was doing her thing. I thought those people were really awesome. They were drinking and smoking cigarettes and all sorts of cool stuff. And so every opportunity that I got to be the fifth wheel on that deal, I took. And then I found some friends of my own who were doing their thing. And so then I kind of like, it's like, well, once a month we'll get some alcohol together and have a little party. And then, then it was twice a month. And then it was 4 times a month. And then, and we're still talking about like 13 years old, like junior high, 8th grade. Hanging out on the weekend, just being classy and drinking beers. It seemed normal at the time. So, some important things about that. That first time that I drank, and subsequently after that, and that warm feeling that came over me, the important thing about that, aside from the fact that it was awesome, is that the fear went away. The self-consciousness went away. This overwhelming feeling of irritation with the word potential went away, because I spent a lot of time as I was growing up having people tell me how much potential I had, and if I would just do the work, then I could do anything I wanted to. Anybody ever heard that stuff? Hated that. Capable is another word that I didn't care for very much as I was growing up, and really still don't. It might continue to be on inventories forever. At any rate, the reason I heard those words so much is I was pretty lazy. I have some talent. I guess I'm above average. Tests say that. I'm a good test taker, so maybe that's not true. But at any rate, I spent a long time from in school, from elementary through junior high, and not so much in high school. I pretty much quit doing anything in high school except taking tests. But I would just kind of try to skate as much as I could on just getting by on the bare minimum, and the best grades I could get with the bare minimum is what was acceptable for me. And that was just kind of the way it was. So my mom gets remarried when I'm 14. I moved to Atlanta. I lived there throughout high school. And what happened from the small college town to the bigger city was more friends, bigger school, more opportunities to drink. And I took them. So the way that I characterize it, kind of like the ascent of my drinking career, is that, it started out like that one time, and then it was, like I said, twice a month, and then it was 4 Saturdays a month, and then it's Friday night and Saturday night, and then it's Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and over time the weekend just kind of expanded out to every day of the week. So then I'm partying every day of the week, and then I'm waking up and drinking in the morning, and then I'm drinking at night. And as high school kind of progresses, I basically come to the point where I'm drinking all day long. And I want to mention that I do believe in the singleness of purpose of Alcoholics Anonymous. So when I say drinking, what I mean is anything that I did to get loaded, because I smoked my alcohol sometimes, I dropped my alcohol sometimes and saw stuff that wasn't there, I have snorted my alcohol, whatever the case may be, I'm getting drunk. So when I want you to know, when I tell you that I'm getting drunk, it means a lot of things. I do enjoy vodka a lot, or did. I don't anymore. See what I did there? So the weekend has become like a 7-day event all day long every day, which is good. And I get a driver's license, which just expands my ability to do stupid things. Just partying all the time. As much as I possibly can. Just bear with me with the coughing. So I'm drinking every day, all day long. And I don't see anything wrong with that, because basically everybody that I hang out with, and this is by design, everyone I spend my time with does things exactly how I do, and so everything looks pretty normal. And my family relationships start to deteriorate, and I get to the point where my relationship with like my mom, we can't be in the same room without screaming at each other. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with my sister before she kind of like calmed down, because I was going to kill myself, and she felt the need to kind of like step in and clean up a little bit, which I am truly grateful for, because I do not know if I would be standing here today if there had not been someone there who was not totally loaded and drunk and at least making like some sort of like semblance of a rational decision about things to do. Having said that, I got arrested for the first time when I was 17, so that was fun. I don't know who's been to Stone Mountain or Atlanta, Georgia before, but they have this giant rock sticking out of the ground called Stone Mountain. So when you're in high school there, the cool thing to do is go to this giant rock and watch the laser show and pick up chicks and whatever. And so my buddies and I get a hold of a bottle of tequila, and I also like tequila. Not as much as the other stuff, but you know, because these like crazy things happen when I drink that stuff. Every time, like projectile vomiting and all sorts of like flying out of windows and, well, I don't know, whatever. So we decide we're going to make some margaritas and go to this laser show. So we get some margarita mix and the tequila, and we decide we're going to pour those in a cup, and that's a margarita. To this day, I don't know if that's a margarita or not, but that's what we thought. So we go to the school, and we get these giant Chick-fil-A cups. This is another like characterizing decision-making process that about my alcoholism. So we go to the school and decide to mix the stuff up, and so the first two guys mix theirs like half and half, and the third guy puts like 3 or 4 shots of the mix in. And no, see, I messed it up again. He puts like 3 or 4 shots of tequila in and just fills his cup up with mix. And what that left with for me was the 3 or 4 shots of margarita mix. And it made total sense to me to just fill the cup up with tequila. So down the hatch we go. It's like a 15-minute ride to the park from where I was. I finished my drink in that time, 15 minutes or so. Whatever, however much that is. We watch the laser show, we meet some girls, mission accomplished. I'm drinking other people's drinks. By the time the laser show is over, I'm totally drunk. Not to the point of blacking out yet, but totally drunk. So we go back to the car, we're gonna meet the girls at Dunkin' Donuts, and, because that's a good place to go when you're drunk. It's good. So we get back to the car. We're swigging out of the bottle. It's great, party time. And I'm like, just whenever you're done with that, leave it in the parking lot. And then I got in the car. I found out later when the police came that the bottle was in the car. They did not listen. That was an important part of the story. So we get to Dunkin' Donuts. I decide to have a dance party in the parking lot. I just jammed the, on a side note, I have a vague memory of driving down the freeway at 80 miles an hour, kind of doing this rodeo thing where I'm like hanging out the window and like waving my arms around and whatever. Because I was driving, of course, after I had this much to drink. So we go to Dunkin' Donuts, a bunch of really dumb stuff happens. I have a parking lot party, and like strangers come up and hang out with me, and they're dancing around, and I'm dancing around. I see this cop drive by, and I'm just dancing around and having a good time. And then he drives by again, and I thought it was probably time to go at that point. So I like corral everybody into the car, turn the car on, put it in reverse, and the police officer pulls in behind me. And he probably 10 seconds later would have been a DUI. But at any rate, an important part of that is that I'm 17 years old. I've been drinking for 5 years. I'm drinking every day of the week and other stuff. I have never been pulled over by the police. I've never had a conversation with a police officer about anything, any sort of wrongdoing or anything going on that was negative. Never even got a speeding ticket. It's important because the first time I had an interaction with a police officer, I went to jail. So he pulls me out, he runs my license. It's totally clean because I've never been pulled over before. He gets me out of the car, we're having a conversation, he wants to pat me down, that's fine. I only have some stuff on me, which he did not find. Very creatively in the handcuffs later, I actually pulled it out of my pocket and shoved it up into the seat of the police car so he would never find it. And he did not, so that's good. Got my hands on the car. He's going to give me a ticket for breaking a noise ordinance instead of loitering because we bought a bunch of donuts, because why wouldn't you buy like 4 dozen donuts? And I'm like, is that all you're going to give me a ticket for? Yeah. And his response to that was, have you been drinking? And I said, no, sir. And he gave me the breathalyzer. I blew a .36. And what that means is 36% of my bloodstream was alcohol. And the reason that story stands out is because that was not an out of the ordinary day of drinking for me. That's what I was doing every day, all day long, and I just happened to get caught that one time. And looking at a medical text, she mentioned that I became a drug counselor after I got sober. Looking at a medical text later, I seem to remember it was like 0.3 or 0.35 where they start doing open heart surgery on you, and I was driving that night, so that's scary. Real lucky to be here. So this is the kind of drinking that I did, okay? And it did not get better at that point. I went to jail for the weekend. Someone answered the collect call from Gwinnett County Detention Center just so they could hang up on me. You know, because anyone who's been to jail knows that it's a collect call. They have to accept it and then hang up just so you know they hung up. Cool. Thanks. So this is another situation where I got grounded. It's like you're never going to speak to those people again. You run with the wrong crowd. My mom found out later I was like the ringleader of the wrong crowd, so that was good. So she typed up this letter. I wish I had this. She typed up this letter to all my friends and taped it to the front door that said all this stuff about how I was never going to speak to them again and I was going to change my life and they needed to go do whatever they needed to do to change their life. And that took about a week, 2 weeks to blow over before I was back doing what I wanted to do. So I kept drinking. That's the important thing. So high school doesn't go well when you don't do anything but drink. I think my first senior year, because I had 2, I had so much fun. The first one, I had a second one, which was really funny until I was watching my friends walk across the stage, and then it was like, wow, this is kind of sad. I had a really good time. I think the second semester of my first senior year, I made it to school on Friday twice. Out of however many weeks that is, I came twice. It was important to get your, I had this lowrider truck for a little while, and it was really important to get that washed up and make sure the wheels were all chromed and everything good to go for the weekend. So I needed to do that Friday during school so I didn't have to waste any time after school. This is where your priorities are at 18 years old when you're a drunk and drinking your entire life down the drain. So she mentioned my dad's a judge. He, when I was 18 years old, after I went to summer school after failing 2 classes I needed to graduate, and I didn't really do anything in summer school, and so I failed those 2 classes again. And my dad decided that like the iron fist of justice was going to fix everything, so he drove to Atlanta, packed all my stuff in his car, and I became like the newest member of Fort Bend County in like a 36-hour period. So I moved to Sugar Land with my dad, and it took me about 3 days to figure out where all the alcoholics and the dope fiends were in the neighborhood. And so it was like right back to it. Didn't miss a beat. Even got a little bit better, actually. You know, a little more lucrative in Sugar Land than it was in the neighborhood I lived in before and whatever. So more stuff, more parties, more people doing dumb stuff. It is a miracle that I'm here today. Don't make fun of me. Just using my hands, you know. Just gotta use my hands. So the police come to my dad's house on a semi-regular basis to get warrants signed and talk to him about stuff that's going on. And then they start coming to his house to talk about where I've been and if I was here on this day and if I was with these people and if I sold this person's stuff to this person. And so that's not so good. I think the relationships, I'm certain that the relationships my dad had with the law enforcement in Fort Bend County saved me from spending some time incarcerated. I'm certain of that. So my relationship with my dad at this point is that I see him at dinner. I stare at my plate. He and my stepmom talk. When I'm done eating, I leave. That's basically what our relationship consisted of. And then when I would get caught doing something stupid, I would sit in my room and wait for the obligatory screaming where he would come in and yell and scream and tell me how dumb I was being and like, why can't you just change your behavior and why won't you just live up to your potential and your capability? And it's like, oh. So one day, 18, 19 years old, I guess I was 19 years old, he comes in after something happened where I was at school. I might have been drunk, I might not have been drunk, I might have been kicked out. They might have found some stuff in my car, whatever. Not important. He comes in, I'm ready for the screaming match. He hands me a business card for this program, this outpatient program. He says, call this guy, make an appointment, go talk to him, or you cannot live here and you cannot drive the car I pay for, and you will not eat my food anymore, and you won't take any of your stuff with you, because I paid for it all. And I was like, well, I'll just make the appointment then. That's easy. I mean, I'm not leaving without anything. So I walked into this guy's office, February 17th of '99. I know that because my life changed forever on that day. My sobriety date is July 14th of '99. I did not get sober on that day. It just changed. I was still an idiot, and I was still an alcoholic. So I come in, and he's like, so, you know, he does the normal counselor thing, and it's kind of like motivationally interviewing me and trying to get me to tell him what I've been doing. And for some reason, I thought, if I just tell this dude the truth about what's going on and, like, tell him I need help, tell him I want help, that like 2 weeks from now things are going to be good. Like I'm gonna get like the clean bill of health. Everything's going to be fine, and we'll just go back to doing things we were doing before. So I told him everything that I was doing, and that did not work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. I got like super into that program. So I started going to this IOP, and I started being like, and then I went to my first meeting, and then I went to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have no idea what happened in that meeting. I have no idea what they were talking about. It was kind of like the teacher on Charlie Brown. It's like, rah, 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 rah. I'm just like, what is going on here? And some guy pulled me aside and gave me a big hug and told me he loved me, kind of told me his story, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. So my first impression was like, this is real weird. But due to the necessity of the fact that at 19 years old I had no tools for living, period, except lying, cheating, stealing, getting drunk. I kept going to this program, and I kept going to the meetings, and then all of a sudden I got kidnapped one night by some dudes that were in the program, and they made me hang out with them and be sober because this whole time I'd been telling my dad I was going on dates every Friday and Saturday night. Like, I can't go to the program, like, meeting or hangout or whatever because I got a date. And he's like, oh, cool, that's great. So he bought that for a little while. Actually, 14 years later, I'm not sure he knows that that's the truth, that I was not going. Whatever. Now he will. It's on tape. So at some point I just thought that maybe I would just try this because it'll get my parents off my back. And that was the beginning of April of '99. Took like a month and a half, 2 months before I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll try it. Maybe it's not that bad. And I stayed sober for a little while. I didn't work a program. I didn't get a sponsor. I went to meetings and I hung out literally all night. I became like a vampire. Strangely, things improved. But I did not stay sober. I walked into a gas station one day near my neighborhood, and I saw this dude that I'd hung out with before that I used to get drunk with, and it was like a switch flipped. And I thought, I got to get drunk one last time. And I did. I went and got drunk, and then I lied to all these people the next day, and I felt terrible about it, and I thought, I got to get drunk one last time to get rid of those feelings. And then, so I did, and then I woke up the third day, and I felt bad again, and I felt like I needed to get drunk one last time, and I did that for 2.5 months. I got drunk one last time every day for like 2.5 months. And I was still going to these meetings, and I'm like I picked up like a 2-month chip. You know, I know, don't judge me. I know there's people in here who did it, or maybe not, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I walked into this IOP on July 14th of '99, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I just started like sobbing. And I got honest, and I'm like, I've been drinking, I have not been sober. And they were like, well, yeah, we knew that. You're not, it's like, the problem with me is that as a drunk, I'm always the last person to recognize that there is a problem. Everyone else in my life knows that I'm going to die. And I'm like, everything's fine. And I just keep believing this, and I keep telling everybody this, even though they don't believe it. So I walked into this meeting on July 14th of '99 and picked up a desire chip. I have not had a drink since. And what I thought when I picked that desire chip up was that my life was over. See, I came here, and I had been to meetings, I hadn't gotten a sponsor, I hadn't worked the steps. I thought my life was over. And somebody suggested that I get a sponsor, so I did. And I worked the first step with him, and that changed my life because it's like I fully conceded to my innermost self that this disease will kill me if I drink. I will die. And that was very important because there's no like middle ground. There's no question in my mind about the fact that if I go out tonight and have a drink, it will lead to another drink, and I will not be able to stop. And I will drink until it kills me, and that might be driving into a pole tomorrow night, or it might be with cirrhosis of the liver when I'm 60, and that would probably be worse than running into the pole, because it would be this long, miserable existence. And so we worked the second step. And see, the thing about the second step for me is that my parents took me to church my entire life. I had this kind of like intellectual, educational idea of a higher power of God that was based on religion and based on doing the right thing, and then you go to the good place, and if you do the bad thing, then you go to the bad place. And that was not real personal for me. And so I had this conception, which was great because it was very simple. It's like, do you believe, or are you willing to believe that I believe that there's a power greater than yourself that can restore you to sanity? And the answer was yes, right off the bat. There was no like question in my mind about it. So I have always felt blessed about that because I have many friends who had way more trouble with coming to terms with the fact that they needed a power greater than themselves to restore them to sanity. Which kind of brings me to the first spiritual experience I had. When I had about 60 days sober, she mentioned Ikipa, and in 99, Labor Day weekend of 99, it was here in Houston, downtown, and there are people at this conference, I'm certain of it, that worked on that committee and attended that conference, and it saved my life. I am not, it's not an exaggeration, because I walked into that hotel downtown, and there was all these people sitting in these meetings and going to the dances at night and like having such a good time. I came to realize that my life was not over. My life was just beginning in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I keep doing these things that I'm doing and I keep staying sober, it's only going to get better. And not long after that, I did a third step, and I read right before How It Works, or the beginning of How It Works, where you change all the pronouns to your name. Some people in here might have done that. There's heads nodding. I got down on my knees with my sponsor, and we held hands, and I said the third step prayer. And I'm telling you, at 19 years old, it's the first time in my entire life that I felt God. It's an unbelievable experience. And between that conference and seeing all those people having a good time sober and not having to drink, and doing that third step for the first time where I felt God in the room with me, like inside of me, it changed my life forever, because since that moment, when I choose to look, I can see God working in my life. I can see God working in other people's lives, and it's clear as day. When people walk into conferences like this, or they walk into their first meeting, or their 10th meeting, or their 100th meeting, and their eyes bulge out of their head, and their life gets changed, and they stay sober for the rest of their lives. And that's contingent upon continuing to do that stuff that I was told to do, that I thought was stupid at the beginning, and it's done nothing but improve my life. I did a fourth step, kind of like what she said. I just listed off a bunch of stuff that I was resentful about, and that was cool, and then I had to get to my part, which was not so cool, and then I shared that with my sponsor. And see, I'm the kind of alcoholic, I didn't feel like I was alcoholic enough on my fourth step, so I made some resentments up, because that makes sense. Just out of thin air, just needed some more resentments so I would like fit in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's some irony to that, I think. So I worked through the steps. I started looking at the character defects, because there's all these patterns of behavior in my fifth step. And then I make a list, and I start like clearing the wreckage of the past, and I start practicing like on a daily basis, taking inventory and like righting wrongs promptly, and then I continue to like enlarge my spiritual life and like seek God's will for me in whatever way that means. And then I started carrying the message and trying to practice the principles in all my affairs. And it's like she told part of my story, and not by mentioning me, but by telling her story. And when it's like when I sit in a meeting and people are talking. I was in a meeting last night. I never go to meetings on Friday nights. I went to this meeting last night, and it was about the third step, and this guy was talking about these people who had committed suicide and like God's will and what God's will was for him and how he worked the third step. And all these people are sharing about like waking up in the morning and asking God to help them be grateful for the opportunities they have to be of service to other people, and like center their minds around like being servants rather than being served. It's like every time, 14 years sober, sometimes I get too many years and not enough days, so to speak. And I start thinking, I've been to enough meetings that I've heard everything there is to hear, that I don't really have any more new information. And then I go to a meeting where I open my mind up and I stop being such an idiot, and I hear new stuff that continues to change my life. And I'm about to talk too much. So I mentioned that that I had to grow up in public. So what that looked like is that I didn't know how to get a job. I didn't know how to keep a job. I didn't know how to have personal relationships. I didn't know how to have romantic relationships. I was an incomplete human being when I showed up to Alcoholics Anonymous. And through making lots of mistakes and making those mistakes right and practicing and working the steps several times since the first time, I continue to learn new stuff about myself, and I continue to learn how to be like a better human being. And it's all contingent on, do I wake up in the morning and do I do that prayer and meditation, or do I decide that I got it today? You know, it's like everyone who laughed knows that when you decide you got it today, that it's not going to go well. And it doesn't go smoothly for me when I do that. And you would think after this amount of time that you would learn to just do it the way that you know it works every single time, and I still am just like smacking myself in the face with a 2x4 sometimes. So some things that have happened in sobriety, like I had this sponsor that I worked the steps with for the first couple of years I was sober, and that was great. It like formed the foundation of my sobriety. And when I had about 2.5 years sober, I got a home group, which I would suggest anyone who doesn't have a home group, just try it out. Because it's pretty cool when you go to a place so many times consecutively and don't miss it, that people start to notice when you're not there, and then they're like, hey, we missed you, what happened? And like everybody knows your name and you know everybody else's name. It's pretty cool. So I go to this meeting and this guy's talking about the first time that he went to the grocery store. And I went to the grocery store for the first time by myself when I was like 19, 20, with a few months sober. And I had $50 and like hyperventilated when I realized Cheerios were $5 a box. So this was a learning experience. So I'm sitting in this meeting with 2.5 years sober, and this guy talks about the first time he went grocery shopping, and Lucky Charms or something was $5 a box, and he starts hyperventilating. I'm like, you're going to be my sponsor, because you know what I'm talking about. So this guy has been sponsoring me for 12 plus years. We've gone through the steps together probably 4 or 5 times. He continues to be a close friend of mine. He continues to be a spiritual advisor for me. He continues to be an advisor in like every aspect of my life that he has gone through. I look to him for guidance because I need it, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I need help, and I got to ask for help. And he's got it. This dude has everything that he wants, and that's what I wanted in a sponsor, and that's what I got, and now I'm getting the things that I want. And that's because of Alcoholics Anonymous. So 8 years ago, Texas, a committee of people from Texas started bidding for this international conference. And every year we came and we thought we were the best and we were idiots, and they gave it to somebody else. And then this past year we went and they gave it to us. And the important thing about that for me is that I'm going to get to participate in putting this conference on that changed my life, and I'm going to get to walk around looking for those. See, I'm kind of a sap, and so when I talk about things that I care about, it chokes me up a little bit. I get to participate in sitting in these meetings and screaming at each other and pulling our hair out and disagreeing about every single thing, and then putting on this unbelievable conference that changes people's lives. And there's going to be some kids there who are 19 years old who don't know how to do anything for themselves, and their lives will be changed because they will realize that life is not over, it is just beginning. It is just beginning. And if you just, if nothing else made any sense, if you just stay and try the things out that people have suggested in finding a sponsor and working the steps and going to meetings and being of service to other people and enlarging your spiritual life, your life will be changed. You will never regret it. Well, let me rephrase that. I have never regretted it. And there are people in this room who will tell you they never regretted it. And I hope that you all get that experience, because I've gotten it and I want to keep it. And by giving it away as much as I possibly can, I get to do just that. So thank you for letting me talk.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.